Hello everybody, my name is Tiffany. I'm the Tipsy Artist. Today we are painting this very cute little winter fox, or it's kind of like a little Christmas fox, either way. So he is adorable, and we have this little color visual that we'll have nearby so we can always reference it as we work. So I'm going to place this off to the side. The first thing I'm going to do though is go over our traceable. So this does go with one of our painting kits that we sell on our website, tipsyartist.com. So here is this cute little fox, and we have the line art, the transfer paper, and then the canvas. So let's talk about how to do this. So we just tape up at the very top. So 1, 2, that's all that's needed. I do go ahead and place the transfer paper down first. Dull gray side up, shiny black side faces the canvas. And again, I keep this nice and free so that you can lift up and check your work as you go and do your tracing. Then I've got my line art just taped right up here at the top as well. Just a couple pieces is all that you need here. And it's just centered right in the middle, so it's all ready to go. And we do have a pencil that comes in the kit. So basically any place that there is a line, you're basically just going to trace right over the top. And just keep doing that all the way until you're completely done. And again, that's really important why to keep this in place. I'm going to check it, make sure it's all done. Then I will lift off here. Now you can see that mine's very dark. So I have a permanent marker in your kit. So we can also use this to do a hard line over the trace. Because if you don't do this, it will basically just look like a very light pencil mark on there. So sometimes people want that, and then I encourage beginners to go ahead and hardline all of this. That way it keeps the trace very visible and will even sustain a little bit of overpaint. You'll still be able to see it. It'll bleed through a little bit. So that's usually very helpful. All right, so we are ready to go, and I'm going to go ahead and place this down here, and then I'm going to switch camera views. So, but I did want to pop in and say hello face to face before I did that. So I'm back here in my fun little sunroom studio. I'm going to switch cameras now. Here we go. Okay. Right. So I have all my equipment out, and let's talk about that a little bit here. Getting situated here. Get my little glasses on. All right, so we've got our, make sure you've got some water nearby, and you've got your family of brushes. This comes in your paint kit. Yours will be brand new, I promise. This is Mama, and then Little Buddy, Little Bit. We've used our pencil and our permanent marker. I'm going to go ahead and place these off to the side. You'll have your paint kit. You want to open that up, get that out. And then your napkins. And we've got some fun little plates you can use as your palette. I haven't painted a lot today, so I have a lot left over from the last painting. So I'm going to go ahead and use this right now. And then this is acrylic paint. So it does set up and dry pretty quickly. So you always want to make sure and rinse out and clean off your brushes very quickly after use. Don't let them just sit around with paint on them, or they could dry your brushes up and ruin them. They'll basically just turn into sticks. So you want to just make sure, and if you don't have time to wash them right away or you get distracted, make sure and place them in the water so you can get to those when you get a chance, but they won't dry out with the paint on them. And then with your paint, this one is used, but basically what you need to know is that all the new paints will have a little silver foil liner on top. You'll have to make sure and lift that off so that the paint will just flow freely out of this. And then whenever you're done, you want to make sure and just cap all these off so that they stay fresh and ready to use. Okay, so now we are ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and start with the Mama brush first. Since y'all's brushes will be new, they'll be a little bit stiff. So we're going to go ahead and place those into the water just a little bit, and then just lightly kind of tap that dry. I'm going to start with the background here. So I'm going to be using some primary cyan blue and some of our titanium white. So I have some white already out. And this is pretty dry, so I don't have to worry about that. That was some gray that I had mixed up earlier. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a nice big dollop of that primary cyan blue. And I'm gonna go ahead and pick up a nice big dollop of the white. And then I'm gonna mix this blue with that. So just kind of mix that together. It's very pretty. Another big dollop of the white. Quite lovely. And I'm just gonna start to sweep this over the top. I'm gonna add a little bit of water here too, so that it can very gently glide over the surface area and flow into the pores of the canvas. And just back and forth. You can also mix a little bit of that pure white in there too. Kind of looks like a little bit of cloud cover happening throughout the process. Just back and forth. Teeny amounts of blue too as you work. That's really nice. Add some water. It'll give you good coverage. But then you'll see it here in a minute. The water also makes it to where it's not so opaque. And when this dries, this part will bleed through. And if you're concerned if it's becoming too opaque and you're just not seeing anymore, just add a little bit more water to it, firm pressure, and that'll give you a nice wash of that blue over the surface area. But then it should make that fairly translucent to where you can still see that. So, show you a little bit here. You can see how it's starting to pop through there. Okay, so we're just gonna go back and forth. And this is pretty green for the most part for this whole area here. When I get near my box, so I am gonna want to interrupt this a little bit to do the cutting work. So the line edge of the brush to go around that shape. And then continue kind of feathering that back out in this horizontal stroke. Back and forth. Then a little bit of cutting work here. A little bit of water. The water really helps it flow into the canvas. Yeah. Really pretty. Around. Right over the top. We'll have water. And then we'll continue on with that horizontal stroke that'll push this out to the side. And as you work this, you can do little swishes of white side to side, or even little bits of that blue. And just back and forth. And a little bit of white. I'm going to turn this a little bit, and then I'm going to hold the brush more over to the side and just get a light, gentle pull on that. With the flat side of the brush facing the canvas. Gives us a nice blended look there. Pull this across. Keep some consistency with the brush strokes there. So again, just horizontal strokes. Look at this one. So we're going to turn this back the other direction. And let's go ahead and rinse out. Dry on. And then I'm going to lift off that point there in that rim. Just in case. That's the snow white, so I need to get a little bit more here, so it's a bit more titanium white here. And we're going to take our plain mama brush and we're going to just barely touch into that black, very tiny touch of that. We're going to mix that in. And give us a very, very light gray. And then we're going to go ahead and work this into the base here. This is our snow. Just realized I forgot a little bit of blue right there. Oops, that happens. Let me fix that. A little bit of a dark purple right here. Push that in, and then I'll white, smooth that in back and forth. Kind of a variety of that. Almost as if there's like, hills of snow happening. Just smooth horizontal strokes back and forth. So if you do this, let that sit in the water for just a minute. I'm going to use my little buddy brush and we'll go into that light blue while it's still wet. And we'll go ahead and work that in. It's better. Okay. All right, next up, let's go ahead and use our little bit brush here. And should I take that back? Let's go ahead and use little Betty. A little bit more of that titanium white. Mix that in with that light gray that we just had. And I'll go ahead and work this into the shape here as our winter white box. And this is lovely because that little chevron pattern just bleeds right through, and I love that. So again, a little bit of water, a light gray. Just paint that right over the top. That way we don't have to do all that cut-in work around all those little bitty shapes, because that's a little bit tedious and not very much fun. That's another reason why I'm a huge fan of the permanent marker at the beginning and going ahead and pulling those major shapes out. That is very helpful to have that there for us. All right, start continuing to use this now. Little buddy, and then that really light gray. I'm gonna go ahead and avoid the heart. We want that to be clean. A little bit of water so we keep that line work in place. But just have that light wash of the light gray over the top. And paint this over the little feet here. And again, add a little bit of water so that you still see your line pop through. Because we'll catch that here in a little bit and redefine that. It just makes this wash of paint over the surface area of the box so much easier to do. And we're gonna have a bit more water. Light wash of this over the face. Everything's still bleeding through, so we're all good. Still see all the details. Let's put this, this major coverage here, just that wonderful foundation. And then over the little ears. Well, brush away any excess water. This paints, we have a nice smooth finish there over the top. So that looks great. Let's go ahead and rinse out. All right, so now I have my little bit brush and we want this gray to now be a little bit darker. So I'm gonna push in a little bit more black into the white to make some charcoal gray. And do a nice little twirl into the paint to get a nice fine point. And so we can start to now work into this design. So we have our little chevron pattern up here, so I'm just going to follow it. The little fun, little loose stylized approach here. Little dots over here sneezing. All right, so very fun. And then we're going to go ahead and do this little part here so we can kind of outline around the ear. Looks like we make little triangles. My little dog sneezing again. It's Miss Ira. I don't know if you can hear it, but. Right, then we have this little bit of gray in here on the top of the head. And then let's just kind of sweep this across to the side and smooth out those brush strokes. And then We can go ahead and do a little bit of an outline now. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a little twirl here into the black. So we've got this little line of the little legs here. And it softly mixes with that wet white that's still there, and that's actually a nice effect. A little bit of a soft blend. If yours is dry though, and you're pushing the center over the top, it's just a nice thick black line, that is also just fine. But do little twirls here into the black paint to get a nice thin edge on the brush. And a little bit of water here too. Then little twirls. And just, hold the brush just like you hold a pencil, coming over the top. It gives you more precise feel here. Sweet puppy dog. Uh-oh, is my arm up? Not sure what's going on. She's trying to get out the doggy door. She's struggling a little bit. She's never struggled with the. It's weird. She is getting a lot older. There's her heart. All right. So we're still doing those little black lines. Round shape too. A little bit of water, because sometimes that line gets a little bit spotty and peekaboo. I'm gonna bring it closer to show you what I mean. See how that's real spotty? And then if you add a little bit of water to it, it immediately just flows into the whole line. I mean, the water just flows right in. You get a nice, beautiful, thick line. So that's the beauty of water. So that really helps. But I always do a pre-add here so you can make sure you get the consistency right and it's not too watery and it doesn't bleed out of the line. And do a little twirl before you start too, that helps. So I'll do a little swirl here. Do that outline here. And get more of that water, a little swirl. And come around the other side. And then again, finish out this little bottom part here. And then we'll use this to come through a little bit of an outline at the top. And here it's going. And you do your outline all the way around these little ears. And the other side. And we have a cute little black nose here. And it kind of looks like a fat upside down triangle. Swirl is really important to have the tiny little lines here, so then a little curve, and a little curve, and then a little curve, and fill that in. And then we have our cute little eyes that we need to do. So it feels like you do a parentheses and then a parentheses. You just fill that in. Same thing here, so a little parentheses. Make it parentheses. Fill that in. Right. Very sweet. Looking little thoughts. All right, now we have some little branches that we need to do up in the top corner. So I'm gonna start from the top, and I'm just gonna kind of drag down and gradually, as I get towards the end of the branch, I kind of do a little bit of a twist and then lift off of the right hand. So that makes for a very tiny, delicate end of the branch. And then you can do like little Ys, like little V's off of the end. So start to kind of twirl. So lots of fun little delicate branches. And there's that little twirl to make it very delicate and add a little bit more thickness here in the corner. All right, and so now we can start to do a few of the little red berries and things. So I still have some beautiful primary magenta out, so we'll use some of that. That's this color here. I'll have a little bit more just in case. And then some cadmium red. That makes more of a cool red. To mix those two together. So let's rinse out a little bit. And then we're gonna mix these two together. So this is our cadmium red and our primary magenta. Again, makes a really pretty full red. As opposed to a warm red, the tone there. So got a nice, beautiful amount of that. I'm gonna go ahead and fill into my palette. hold it like a pencil and just work into those curves. A little pressure as it spins into that fullness of the shape. And then lift off with pressure as you go into that little fine point. Kind of barely touch the canvas there. And also remember, you can do that little twirl into your paint, and that will rotate the head of the brush into a nice fine point. Very pretty. And I'm gonna start working on some of these berries. So I just kind of spin in a little circle. This is one way to do it. It looks like you make little Cheerios and just keep spinning, okay? I'll go and spin out the rest of that. And then I'm gonna show you how to do it with a little buddy here too. So take a little buddy and just grab a bit more of a thick layer of that paint. We're just gonna press to one side, press to the other, and that makes some fun little circles. Even if it picks up a little bit of that wet black, that's okay, because it's kind of a crimson look. They blend it all together, so it's all right. Again, this look is like a half circle, another half circle. Meet back towards the center. All right, so we have some fun little berries happening. So I'm gonna do some smaller ones here too. Just a little twirl here with a little bit brush. Just give a little bit of variety. A little bit of a push and twirl. So lots of fun little shapes in there. Rinse out. Let's see. Grab some Viridian. And I'll tight a little bit here, grab a little bit of the white, mix that in with it. Tighten that up just a little bit. Do a little bit of this green leaf here, not a little bit of water for it flows a bit better. A little twirl. It looks like you make a parentheses and another parentheses. Lift off at the right hand. You can also just kind of do a little tiny. Almost feels like you make like little tiny commas. Like a little touch of that. It's kind of sprinkled through. little tiny touches of that. Really pretty. Oh, very sweet. See what else. Okay. So we have some white highlights we can do now. A little bit of water and all that paint here. And I'm gonna make what kind of looks like little bits of snow in the sky. So a couple of different options. You can do like little tiny spirals like that. Or you can do like little tiny, it's like little Cheerios in the sky. Kind of get a mix of those. And then a little few of this one. Yeah. Again, kind of feels like you make tiny little combos. Just kind of. Just a little touch of that around the edges. And I do little flash points of light on the berries, so just like a little touch, and it kind of follows the little half circle shape, so it kind of feels like you do like a little tiny comma of that. Well, also like a parentheses too, actually. Picked up a lot of red, so I did a little white there to give it tiny again, so you more pure white. And I'm going to continue with that. So again, see a little bit of red, clean up a little bit here, and then pure white. Got those spirals, and I go back into the little Cheerio look again. You can vary the size. The spiral, I don't know what my water here. Kind of helps it flow a little bit more into the top. Very fun, whimsical snow. Little Cheerios or little spirals. Just hold the brush like a pencil and just circle all the way around. You can do those little tiny swishers in there. And add a little bit of pattern as well. Now the water really helps it be a lot more fluid. Now I'm gonna go over, echo a little bit of that shape of the fox there. As I do the outline. You can vary the size of those circles too. Very therapeutic. All these little shapes makes it really fun. We can say, "Whee," if you want to, that helps. Oh, that looks amazing. Nice snowy sky. All right, let's see what else we need here. I think I think that I might not want to shove on here. You can add little flash points to the eyes too, very delicately. So a little trick here with that. Take the end of the brush, the wooden side, just barely touch on the white. Super tiny. And you just want to barely touch down here. Just touch. Touch. And there's little flash points in the eyes that gives it lots of fun personality. And then one thing you can do, I've got a little hard line of black around the heart there. We can do that too. It's kind of optional. If you like it the way it is, you can certainly leave it the way it is. We're going to do a little twirl into the black. And we're going to make this black one into a heart. Let her twirl first to make sure that line's very thin. Take it to a little point here. You can also do this with your permanent marker too. As long as the paint's dry, and then you'll be free to do that. Because it will ruin the Sharpie if you paint. If you use the Sharpie on wet paint, it'll basically just instantly kill the Sharpie. I want you to be able to have a long life with your Sharpie. So just use it on a dry canvas and it'll be fine. We're just doing this little tiny curl. And that one you're really it's out. There's one of the place we can do a tiny little bit of reflective light, little touch of white here on her nose. It's right there. That's cute. Yeah. All right, looks really good. Okay, so we are done with our cute little painting. And then I'm going to show you what I mean here too with that with Arthur. So this is pretty dry. That's not, so I want to avoid that. But you can go ahead and sign your masterpiece here too. Go ahead and sign. Right down here. It's so much easier with a little Sharpie. Ta-da! We're good. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope you enjoyed this cute little Christmas box or winter box. And I'll be sure to leave the link for the painting kit that's on our website at tipsyartist.com. So again, thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Happy to help with all that. And y'all have a beautiful rest of the day. We'll see you soon. Toodles.